Okay, great. Hi, everybody. We're just letting still some people into the room, so don't worry, you're not late. We're just kind of getting going. I want to introduce myself. Hi, everybody. My name is Kathy Burrell. I'm an entrepreneur in residence here at WeBC. And before we get started, I just want to acknowledge that we're gathered here today in Kelowna on the traditional and unceded territory of the Okanagan Syilx people. We recognize, honor, and respect the presence of Indigenous people, past, present, and future. So welcome, everybody. Um, if you're interested in sharing in the chat your first name and the traditional territory that you're located on, we would love you to do that. And Jen is going to post a link in the chat just in case you're not sure which territory you're residing on. And feel free to say hi and where you're from because, as you know, WeBC serves the entire province of British Columbia. So we always like to know where people are coming to us from. I'd also like to remind everybody that at the end of today's session, we're going to have a feedback poll. And it'll just take a minute or two after the session. We want to end right at 11 o'clock. If you can stick around for that feedback poll, we'd love to know what you think of today's session. And if you have an idea, a burning question for another session that you'd like WeBC to do, please type it into the chat and somebody will get back to you just to talk about it. So thanks so much for doing that. Okay, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we offer. We provide support for your small business journey. We offer financing to get your business started and operating capital to fuel your growth. We offer more flexibility than traditional lenders because we take a holistic approach and provide loans based on your business's viability, not based on formulas. So, what this means is we provide loans to a diverse range of women owned businesses and support you with integrated services, including complementary training, mentoring, and business advising. So, the long and short of that is if you were to get a loan through WeBC and the term of the loan was 5 years, for 5 years you would receive free training, mentoring, and business advising from us because we want you to succeed. From essential business skills development to personalized business advice, we know the right questions to ask and the right resources to connect you with. In our mentoring programs, you can connect with a network of women entrepreneurs and experts all around BC who can support and inspire you. All of us have been through starting a business, so you're in the right place. You can learn more about our services at our website, which is we-bc.ca, and sign up for our eBlast newsletter to get notified of new programs because it's only the beginning of February, but we have a ton of great offerings all through this year, but especially at the beginning of the year. So yeah, that would be great. Jen will post a link in the chat as well, which is our link to sign up for our eBlast. So, today's webinar, without further ado, welcome to our panelists, Sarah Ann Herchenko, Procurement Advisor at Public Service and Procurement Canada. So, if you're wanting to get ready for upcoming government opportunities by learning how the bidding process works, you're in the right place. Today, we will break down the steps so you know what to expect and how to prepare your business to respond confidentially. All right, without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing my slides and welcome Sarah Ann. I'll turn off my slides now, Sarah Ann, and you go ahead and share. Thank you very much to Sarah Ann.
Perfect. Sarah Ann is saying thank you. We'll share my screen 1 second. Is everybody able to see that?
No.
No. Okay. Let me try that again.
We see you.
Oh, this is looking promising. Ta-da! Now
How
we
about
see.
now? We're good?
Yeah,
Okay, great.
looks great.
Perfect. So hi, everybody. Great to be here. Nice to see some good attendance today. So I'll be talking today about how to prepare your business for federal government opportunities. So first and foremost, I want to be honest, it's not easy. The bidding process is not simple. It's not super easy. So that's why PAC exists. We're here to help small business owners prepare for bidding on opportunities. So we'll talk a little bit about the federal government's position, what types of things they're looking to buy, and if you're able to understand those things as a supplier, you may be able to sell to them more successfully. So I'll say this now, and I'll probably say this a couple of times, just to emphasize that federal procurement is, like I said, not simple, and it often takes several attempts before you're successful. So I tell people, if anybody does get a contract the first time that they submit a bid, hats off to you. That's amazing, but that's not the typical experience. In my conversations with suppliers, what I usually hear is that it takes a couple of tries, sometimes more than that, before they get actually are successful in getting a contract. So, it takes time to really understand the process, to know how to respond to solicitations in a way that will get you there. So if your first attempt is not successful, don't give up. I'm going to go through a lot of information today. I'm not trying to scare you off. I actually used to be a business owner. I ran a tile company. And I remember initially going through this process and I made so many mistakes. I submitted quotes that were too low, and then I had to follow through, and I submitted bids that were not successful. And it took a number of years, and it was probably like, by the time I had been doing that for 10 years, I didn't have to go out and look for work anymore. People were coming to me. So like any business, you start out and it's a lot more work. It's a lot more challenging. The learning curve is steeper. And I would say that's very much the same as when you're selling to the federal government. So it's just important to start out with that mindset, that it is a learning curve. It will take time, but it is worthwhile in the end if you can stick it out. So first of all, we will review a solicitation document. So the Canada government posts federal government opportunities on a website called Canada Buys. That is our government electronic tendering service, or GETS, and is the official source that suppliers should use to find tenders. So you can find this just by Googling Canada Buys. It will be the first result that comes up. And then you're able to use the search function to search for open tenders. So you can use keywords, like whether it's a good or service that you provide, to find tenders that are a fit for what it is that you sell. And so some of you may be kind of ready to submit a bid, some of you may not. And I'll talk a little bit about kind of both those stages and give you some tips for how you can, maybe you're not ready right now, but how you can prepare your business to be ready in the future. So I'll sprinkle some of those tips in throughout. I will say it's really important for business owners to look at past contracts that have already been awarded. That's a really good learning opportunity where you can kind of delve into some of the requirements, think about whether or not you would have been able to meet those requirements. If your business is not able to meet the requirements within the tendering document, then it's not worth going any further. So that's the place to start. You would initially look at the requirements. If there are some things maybe you don't have currently, but you could maybe get there, then that's an opportunity to make some changes so that if bids come up in the future that are similar, or tenders rather, that are similar, you are prepared to bid. So within Canada Buys, oftentimes you are able to click on this bidding details section and then download the tender document. So this one is an RFP, and you can download that and read all the information. If you're familiar, if you've been through an RFP process before, if not, I will warn you, they can be, 25 to 100 pages, sometimes more. It's a ton of information, but it is broken down. There's a very clear structure that it follows. So once you get the hang of it, it's a little bit easier to wade through these very lengthy documents. And then within the tender solicitation document, it will outline, like I said, the requirements of the contract. It will talk about how bids are evaluated. It will talk about what the expectations are in terms of project delivery. So the RFP that I mentioned, that means request for proposal. If it's an RFP, that means whoever the successful bidder is guaranteed to get a contract. So an RFP means it will result in a contract, which is guarantee of work and payment. There are other types of contracts. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but there are three main types. The first one, RFP, again, is a guarantee. If you are the successful bidder, you will have a contract. But there are other types of solicitations as well. One is a request for standing offer. And that differs from an RFP in that it's not a guarantee of a contract. So if you are a successful bidder, you become a qualified supplier, but it's no guarantee of a contract. So that is a process where they're looking for pre-qualified vendors to be added to a pool, and then future call-ups against that standing offer will come out. And if you're successful there, then you would get a contract. So until there's a call-up issued and you are the successful bidder, that's when you would get a contract. But initially, it is just a process to become pre-qualified. And for a standing offer, you would set a fixed price for set term and set conditions. And that is similar to the third, which is a request for supply arrangement, or an RFSA. So very similar to an RFSO or standing offer, except for the supply arrangement, price is not fixed. So in this one, it would really depend on the scope of the project. So these are used oftentimes for services. If there are specific requirements and they're looking for people who are able to meet those requirements, but the price may, or the scope may change. So they may ask for, a certain number of years of experience providing, for example, a translation experience, doing kind of audio-visual translation, or maybe they will require that you have certain level of experience with different types of equipment. So once they have guaranteed all of that is true, you have all of those requirements, then you'd be added to a pre-qualified list of suppliers. And then when a department or a client needs that service, they would send out a call up. But because it's hard to set up fixed price for something like translation services, right? Maybe something's one page or a 1 minute video versus a 1 hour long video, the price cannot be fixed. So in that case, a supply arrangement would be issued, and price would not be determined until the actual details of that particular opportunity or particular job are outlined, and then the suppliers would respond with their quote and additional information, and a successful bidder would be chosen and given a contract. So those are the three main forms of solicitations that you will see if you are looking through federal government opportunities. So as I said, it's a lot of information, but it's really important to go through it. There are really key pieces of information there, particularly the mandatory criteria. So within an RFP, for example, I always encourage people to use the search feature and then search for the words must, required, shall, just so that nothing gets missed. That's a really quick way to make sure that anything that is actually a requirement doesn't get missed. And some businesses may have a lot of experience doing this and they are ready to go ahead and bid. That's one thing. If you're not sure, I suggest reading through a few previously awarded RFPs, or even some that are currently open, and filtering for those words and seeing if your business is able to meet the requirements listed within that document. So some of the examples might be certain levels of certifications, there might be funding requirements, there might be qualification for personnel requirements, you may need resumes for all of your employees. So if you go through and have a look, that will help you determine whether or not you think you might be ready. So if you have an information management system, that's great. You may have a lot of the employee information on file already, so it's a little bit easier to build in. But if you build a good information management system, that will set you up for a lot easier bidding in the future. A lot of bids require things like, for example, a minimum of 3 years providing this type of service, or a minimum 3 years of experience doing consultation work. And to verify that, they would need to see a resume. Or they may ask for references. So if you can already have all of those things filed away in your information management system along with timelines, it'll make it a lot more streamlined when you actually go to bid on something. Because if you're otherwise having to kind of go and search for each thing that you need, even if you think you might have had 3 years, but actually only had 2, well, then you're not going to be qualified, and it's not worth your time going through the process any further. So really important to keep all of that information kind of neatly filed so that you can respond efficiently. And we'll just switch interpreters now.
I'm just going to show you an example here. So I thought it had one, but actually the tender has, there's a time countdown on the solicitations when you open the bid, and if you're interested in it, you'll see how much time is remaining before it closes. So it might be, 3 days left, and you're like, okay, maybe that's a bit too tight. But if you've already prepared everything in your information management system, and you just wanted to take a look at this solicitation, you want to be ready for maybe a future bid, you can look at an old tender and have everything set up that's often required. And then maybe in 3 days, you would be able to respond to that one because you have all your information ready to kind of put into the submission. Some, there might be like a technical section where you can write up some information there. Some require it, some don't. But yeah, if you are prepared, you will be able to respond to it a lot quicker. Solicitations often, the different parts of the solicitation include these here that are listed on the slide. That information you can peruse through, but the main thing is about how you find the right information about that tender, and that's where you would look at the statement of work. That's the key part to look at. So if you find the statement of work and you look at that and you can say, you know what, I can do that. I can do what's required. I can be compliant to what's being requested. Then it's worth your time to go ahead and do it. And then you also look at the evaluation criteria and check what the mandatory criteria are there. And if you can do both of those things, then go for it. But if you're not able to meet some of the mandatory criteria, it's not worth wasting your time and going through this, because you can already figured out that I can't do certain things here. I'm not ready for that. So it's important to save your time and really look at that first. But maybe, and then you think about, like, can I meet this criteria in the future? Maybe I need to get certain types of certification or certain programs, or have to build more experience or qualifications in certain elements that are being requested. It really depends on what's required. And maybe in the future, you'd be ready to submit for that tender.
Sarah Ann, there's a question in the chat regarding
Oh,
do you
sure.
have do you have any guidance on the best way to go about reaching bidders, prime contractors awarded to subcontract services? I think somebody's inquiring about, going in a partnership to bid.
Okay, yeah, very good question. Just give me a moment here. And just give me 1 minute. I'm going to show you so you can see what I want to show you here a lot better here to answer that question. Give me a moment. Oh no, the website's not working. Oh, okay, here it is. Never mind. And you should be able to see it now. Can everyone see that okay? Okay. So when you go down to the bottom of the tender, you see this section here. It says you have to go into the tender first. You have to open the tender and go down to the bottom, and that's where you'll find the partner with another business. So other businesses can see that you're interested in this opportunity, so they might want to partner with you, and they can contact you. Or maybe you can see that there's businesses there that you can reach out to and coordinate that. Another tip as well. I mean, not every business will do that, right? But you can look at the historical uh, awarded of contracts. Like, so what companies have received the contracts before? What prime contractors have got the contract before? And you can reach out to them and request and see if you can do a subcontract for your business. And how you find old awarded contracts, you can look at a website called Proactive Disclosure. That's an important one to remember, Proactive Disclosure. And you can see contracts that were awarded in the past. And here, I'll just pull it up for you. This is it here. Yeah, my internet's a little bit slow today. I don't know. Bear with me here. It's just... Wow, yeah, it's extremely slow. Sorry about that. But here, this website, here we go. So you can search for this, for example, audio video services, and you'll see contracts that were awarded in the past. See what businesses already have the contract. And you can you can go to the filter section, and you can put in the contract year, organization, month. You can do whatever you want with the filters, and you can find maybe who the prime contractor was, and then you can reach out to them and share your services. Hopefully that answers your question.
So
If you're not,
Jess, we'll end up putting that on that link on the website for or on in the chat for progressive
yeah, proactive
disclosure,
disclosure. Yeah,
proactive
yeah,
disclosure.
yeah. Hopefully
Thank
that
you.
answers the question. And if not, please reach out to me, and I can support you more in that regard. And I'll just get back to the slides here. Bear with me. Okay. So back to the statement of work. I did mention about the statement of work already. That tells you the story of what's required by the client, right? And for the contract. So that's a very important thing to look through. And there are also different annexes. So you want to check those as well. Those are often important information in there. Like, for example, the pricing structure part. So how you would structure your price, you can look for that there. Um, so how maybe you can adapt your pricing structure to fit what's being required for the standard pricing structure that they're looking for. And then also sometimes the pricing structure has a breakdown about how everything is calculated, and you have to consider certain things, right? For example, the statement of work might require for the product or service to be delivered. Maybe it's waste disposal as part of the contract. Maybe there is a green environment considerations that have to be accounted for. But your pricing structure, maybe you didn't include maybe waste disposal or certain other environmental elements. So you have to really figure out what that pricing structure would how it would be set up for on your side to cater to what's being requested. So so important to look at what the government's looking for and how they want their price to be structured. So the annex is where you would kind of look for that further information. Also the type of payment. Some government will pay via credit card. Some will do a direct deposit. That information is also listed in the annex. And so security requirements is another thing to consider. You really want to look at to see if there are security requirements for that tender. So maybe you have to start preparing your business to get those. You have to contact the security team to get clearance. I can share the information regarding that for security clearances. And just to let everyone know, not every contract requires that. I wouldn't say, I mean, the odd one here and there requires it. So don't sweat too much about it. Often the solicitation will inform you that security clearance is required, and you can think about, okay, so what do I need to be ready for that security clearance application? And at the time, if the tender is still live and you have the security information, security clearance information, and maybe you can bid for the opportunity, and when you get awarded the contract, you can, at the same time, you can start getting your security clearance. So then you can inform them that, like, I'm in the process of getting clearance. So you don't have to give up on it, or you don't have to worry about getting that security clearance right away. You can say that, I've already submitted for it and I'm preparing. So if the right opportunity comes up, I can apply for security clearance at the same time. So the contracting authority will support you through that process to get your clearance. So once you get that, then they'll award you the contract. So it's important information to look at. Just like someone asked me earlier today about how to find, partners or, partnerships with prime contractors. Evaluate your business capacity. Maybe you can't do something on your own, but if you partner with another business, you can submit. So partnering with businesses is a great way to prepare your business for maybe an upcoming bid, or posting your interest in, even just looking at old contracts that were awarded and adding your business, where businesses might look at the old solicitations like, oh, okay, so there's other businesses that are interested in subcontracts. You never know, right? There's some random opportunities that can come up on random days, right? So take the opportunity and leave crumbs on the trail, I'll say, where people can, find you and contact you and see if you're willing to partner for an opportunity. And so a bidding roadmap is very important as well, about how you can arrange, how your business pursues contracts. Like, for example, me, like I would organize. I'm not the most organized. I don't file everything away and get everything ready. At work, I'm very organized, but for my own business, with the business I had before, I wasn't as organized. But with the federal government, I had to change how I did my filing system. Um, so the timeline that you have, sometimes it's okay to be honest with yourself. If there's an opportunity that maybe has 2 days before it closes, I'm not prepared enough, and I'm not going to rush to get that information in and submit. But maybe I do. But just important to be realistic on how you have your filing system and your information management set up, and how you can, and what the requirements are of that tender. Maybe you look at this opportunity and it's quite a large project, and my business is not ready to, it doesn't have the capacity for that. But maybe in 2 years' time, you can. So how do you strategically grow your business and get the right certifications and requirements that you can meet that contract in the future? So it's the journey about getting to that point, right? Something to consider. I'm sure WeBC business advisors are happy to support how to prepare for that journey as well. Yeah, and again, I mentioned this already. The point is, if you're interested, in this contract, or maybe you're not interested, it's important to be honest with what you can do, because the federal government really takes, submitting takes a lot of time, and being ready for that bid is not a quick and easy thing to do. Many contracts are easier, but with federal government, there's a lot of compliance, fair and transparent opportunities that you have to be able to justify. They have to justify their decisions, so they're always looking for the right company to be able to, follow through with this. So they have to justify their decision on selecting this company and being transparent and accountable. So when somebody wins that bid, they already have those requirements. It's not just picking any company out there. They have to have these certain requirements and mandatory criteria met. Yeah, it's not like a golf conversation contract where you're golfing with a friend. And like, oh yeah, you know what? I'll grant you the contract. It's not like that. The government's a very different, a different approach. So if you want to sell this, just new idea, that's very hard to do that with the federal government. It's all about compliance. And if you are ready for that type of opportunity, then go for it. But there's no right or wrong answer, of course, but it's important to be honest with yourselves as a business if you can meet the requirements. And that would be the route. And we're just going to switch interpreters.
Okay, so I mentioned mandatory criteria already. So if you're not able to meet the mandatory criteria, then it's pretty straightforward. You will not be considered qualified and your bid will not be accepted. So that's key. And I know I'm kind of sounding like a broken record, but I can't overemphasize how important it is to look at the mandatory criteria, make sure you can meet all of it. Because if you put, your blood, sweat, and tears into this and you don't meet one of those mandatory criterion, then your bid will not be considered. There's no point in responding. Sometimes there are areas that are not necessarily required, but they will give you a leg up. So that's point rated criteria. So if you, use environmentally friendly products, for example, or if you have over a certain number of years in experience, whatever it is, whatever is outlined within the document, if you kind of have a team on standby ready to meet whatever demands arise, oftentimes there will be a range in the point rated criteria. So it will say, for example, minimum of 3 years experience. And for anything between 3 and 10 years, you'll get points, and it will be more points for more years of experience. There's typically like a max. But you'll often see point rated criteria, which means that they're not mandatory, and it's a little bit more of a complicated process to procure something. So oftentimes you'll just see the mandatory criteria, and it will be lowest price. So whatever lowest price meets mandatory criteria. If it also includes point rated criteria, then it's more complex. The decision-making process is different. So for example, if they're weighing years of experience quite heavily, then it just kind of goes to show that they really value that experience more so than getting something at the lowest price. So when you see point rated criteria within a tender document, you know that the price will be weighted, not 100%. It will be weighted as less than some other criteria that have been laid out. So for example, some are 40% price and then 60% point rated criteria. Others will be 30% price and 70% point rated. So they're weighted differently depending on what the buyer values. So when you see that the price is weighted quite low, that just tells you they really, really value experience, high quality work, and other criteria that they've listed out. So just something to keep in mind. It might give you a better sense of who your competitors are and whether or not you have a good shot. Right? And if it's just if it's based on price, they're just looking for lowest price, that also gives you a bit of insight into what they're looking for. So you can kind of get a better sense of the playing field if you take that into account. And if you're not sure kind of how it works, if there's something that's unclear, I always encourage people to reach out to the contracting authority with any questions that you have. They will email you a response to your questions. So there's no harm in reaching out. And often, well, not often, but often enough, some of these pieces get missed and they're so simple. So for example, signing to agree to the terms and conditions, that gets missed. Like one simple little thing, you've gone through all the work of putting together this bid and you forgot to sign on this one line and your bid is basically considered non-responsive. So just make sure that you're really careful. It can be easy to overlook these details, but just make sure you're double, triple checking, making sure you're signing everywhere you're supposed to. I also suggest that you ask others to have a look at it, proofread it, make sure you haven't missed anything. Having a second or third set of eyes can be really, really worthwhile. And typically bids will include 4 sections, so technical, management, financial, and certifications within the solicitation document. And the statement of work is usually so you usually respond to everything that's laid out in the statement of work within the technical section of your bid. So the statement of work is where the client lays out what they need, what they expect, and then when you respond, you have to explain how you are going to meet all of those needs, all of those requirements, preferences, and that is what you put in the technical section. And if you maybe think a practice, like I recommend a practice, type up the technical section, try and respond to a statement of work, in a contract that's already been awarded or in something that's available, but you maybe not quite ready yet. I know small business owners don't typically have a lot of downtime, but if you find yourself with some downtime, it's definitely worth giving it a try. And then that's something that you can use to set a foundation for how you're going to reply to future tenders. And then the financial section and certification section, those are just requirements that you can have filed away. You don't have to respond individually to each tender that you respond to. You can have all of those already filed away and then just basically attach the documents that are requested when you're submitting a bid. So what I used to do when I was running a tile business is I had a spreadsheet and I would include anything that was needed for that project. So maybe a crane would be needed. So I would include the cost of that. This is for high-rise projects. I don't want to carry tiles all the way up to the top floor of a high-rise. So I want there to be a crane on site. So I think about all the things that are going to go into me fulfilling that contract. And I would have a spreadsheet and I would list out all of those costs. I would also make sure that, for example, my staff needed to have first aid. So I would have their certifications, I would file them away. And so I would go through the requirements and I would have my list and I would check off each piece as I pulled it from my file and added it to the bid. So if you pull up a bid, look at the mandatory criteria, that can give you a sense of what you may want to have on your own spreadsheet or checklist so that you can use that going forward and you can add to it over time. And just being really organized in that way helps you not forget things because it can be very overwhelming. A lot of documents are required, a lot of checkboxes and signature lines. So just as organized as you can be will really help you. If you can have even like a template that you've set up that makes sure you're not missing any important details. That will help you just bid a lot more efficiently in the future if you're planning on sending in multiple bids down the line.
I just had a little question for Sarah Ann.
Yeah.
Um, is there, uh, I understand in these sections there must be language that the bidding or the authority person would sort of look for when evaluating your bid. Are there any documents online or like samples online where you can look at another sort of like bid just to see how they're describing the things to, successfully bid? Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Um, Basically, I will tell you that the federal government really, really likes plain language. They like things to be concise. They don't want to read through like wordy, jargon-filled bids. That typically does not work well. So if you can explain in plain language, be concise, that will definitely set you up well. So the contracting authority, during kind of this whole tendering process, they have a number of different responses that they have to evaluate. And the contracting authority or officer, like that's their expertise, right? Is contracts, but they are not probably not an expert in whatever field it is you're in. So if the client, if the supplier or the bidder is writing language that is like very technical, that's very industry specific, that's going to make the contracting officer their job a lot harder. So they really appreciate when you can lay things out in a plain, kind of easily digestible way for somebody who is not an expert in your field. So if you're using any technical language, any jargon, make sure to include a definition, because right as if you're speaking to somebody who knows nothing about your industry. So really walk them through it, really help them understand why you are the right choice. Um, Contracting authority officers are typically very detail oriented. They are quite risk averse. They want to see that, if they choose you, they want that to be able to be easily justified. So you want to make sure that you're explaining what you can do clearly, simply, concisely. Hopefully that helps. In terms of a template, it just, because each solicitation is so different, it's really hard for there to be any type of template that would apply like as a standard. If you know, like, yeah, if there was one, what was outlined there may be totally contradicting what the actual solicitation is looking for. So I always just suggest read the document really carefully, the tender document, and it will tell you exactly what it needs you to basically include. So those 4 parts to your bid are what make up your submission. And you can always reach out to the contracting authority again to ask for a template for this particular tender. Because some contracting authorities, like, they like to see a particular size of paper, or they like to see black and white only, no color. It really depends. Like, there's not really any standardization. So you can always ask, do you have a template? Are there any, formatting or other things that you'd like me to follow? You can always ask.
Great explanation. That really helps. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I had one person reaching out to me. I was coaching them, and they were asking for a template, and they said, I really need a template. And I was like, if I were to give you a template, the next tender you try to use it on, you may be unsuccessful because you're following a template that is not actually developed to be in line with the specific requirements in this document. So this person ended up, they kind of went at it their own, and they were not successful the first 3 times, and the 4th they were. And they came back to me and said, you know what, you were right. It just took practice. It took experience. And so they got the 4th time they bid, they got a contract. The 5th time they got a contract. So it does take time to learn how to do it right. And I think one of the biggest pieces is having all of that information stored away, like I said, organized and filed, and then you can just pull out what you need based on the requirements in the tender. But, oh, it says right there, yeah, use plain language, and we'll just switch interpreters.
Oh, sorry, I just need to pin Sean, the interpreter. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can't see the interpreter. Oh, no. Okay, there we go. We got it. Okay, thank you. Perfect. So I just mentioned plain language is very important, and the evaluation on terms of how you respond to each question that's asked. There are some parts in the statement of work that you can say you can meet those requirements, or maybe it requires, let's see here, recycled bags or recycled packaging is required as part of this, and they'll provide that, but doesn't say anything else. So it's important to say something about that, saying like, okay, we will provide recycled packaging, or in there. So, and where it's from, you can just put that information there, like, show that you've thought this through, that you've met that requirement, saying, yeah, we'll provide this and we're getting it from here, or just acknowledge what's being said in the statement of work in your response. And introducing your team. Who's on your team? You can name everybody and what their experiences are, what their experience is, and the qualifications. If you have subcontractors, you can list those as well. And also, yeah, how the people that work for you or will meet those requirements. You can attach their resumes to prove that they have experience, they have their various experiences, or they have a university degree and things like that. Other contracts maybe don't require that, but the federal government often requires you to have that proof and have everything filed that you can show them. Some people have asked, like, I've said that the provincial government doesn't need that, but the federal government shouldn't need it either. But no, it's best to have it all filed and ready to go just in case. If you're not sure, you can ask the contracting authority if it's needed. And as I mentioned before, the fixed price, seeing what the costs will be that are within this contract. So you often will have a price for year 1, year 2, year 3 of the contract. You have to think about what the price would be in the future. And often you get paid after the project is complete. So making sure that you have capital ready, or you have an arrangement to have a loan, so you have enough cash flow to meet the requirements. I just want to emphasize again, some businesses are very small, and it doesn't hurt to ask the contracting authority, and asking, is there, maybe we could have a fixed time for payment, and the contracting authority might be okay and adjust something for you. So don't be afraid to ask the contracting authority. So maybe if you had to wait till the end of the project to get paid, you might not be able to afford that. You wouldn't have enough cash flow. There's no harm in asking and see if maybe the payment can be broken down into certain smaller chunks or smaller phases. So no harm in doing that. So I just wanted to share that. Yeah, so cost plus contract, it's of all the risks you have to consider that could happen in a contract. So you always be prepared to have extra costs. And now we're here. How do you stand out from the competition? I'll just yeah, I think I've shared a lot of information already, but we'll wrap it up pretty soon here.
Yeah, Sean, or
Yeah,
sorry, Anne, we've got probably 5 more minutes.
5 minutes left. So yeah, we can go ahead and start with questions now. That's I'll leave it at that. Yeah. So any questions?
Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself or you can type your question into the chat. But rest assured, in the email you receive with the recording, we're going to give you Sarah Ann's contact information. And so that, if you think about a question and you want to ask it later to her personally, you can do that as well. But any general questions on what we've talked about bidding? I have a question. So Sarah Ann, do you have any idea, like, competition wise, how many people bid on these contracts? Is it hundreds or thousands or fifties or?
You know what? That is sometimes none, sometimes two,
Oh,
and sometimes 10. I mean, sometimes,
yeah.
yeah, like we never really know, but yeah, it's very hard to say.
Okay.
Um, you can look at, like I said, that website before, proactive disclosure,
Yeah.
and you have a better idea of who your competitors are by looking there and seeing maybe who's winning most of the contracts there. Get an idea of that,
Yeah.
and just see, yeah, how do you become more competitive? But sometimes there's no one else has bid, and you
Yeah.
the only one that bid, and you have to make sure that your bid response is complete
Yeah.
and it's fully compliant, and you've checked off all the boxes, and maybe you'll be awarded that contract, right? But if you miss one requirement, then there's considered no bidders, and they have to repost it.
Yeah.
So um, it's hard to say. Sorry, I'm not giving you a straight answer. But it really depends. Yeah, it really depends. There's quite a variety.
That's okay. We've got a couple of questions in the chat. One of them is I'm still a bit confused about the accounts we need to get. PBN and CPSS and Ariba SAS. Is that right?
Yeah, SAP Ariba. Yeah.
SAP
Um,
Ariba.
so I'm assuming you provide services. The person that's asking the question, you're in the service industry.
It's it sounds like it's Stephanie, if you
Yeah,
want to add anything.
yeah, professional services, team building workshops, facilitation.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for clarifying. So yes, there are different supply arrangements that you can apply for. To be able to respond to the supply arrangements, you need to have a PBN first off to be able to get paid, right? You need to have a PBN number to get paid.
Okay,
Procurement business number. If you don't have a PBN, you don't get paid. So
okay,
that's number one.
that's number
Um,
one.
yeah, and then so SAP Ariba account needs to be set up. You gotta make sure that you set up that correctly. There are step-by-step instructions on Canada Buys. If you're not sure about anything there, you can always reach out to me and I can show you the process. We can do a one-on-one, and that's at any time. I can help you through that and just get you started with that. And then also you have to set up an account with CPSS, centralized professional services, like a procurement platform where you would post your supply arrangement response. It gets
Oh,
responded to in CPSS. So there's a few things you do have to set up. And how you find those supply arrangements is found on Canada Buys. So you would find it there, then it tells you what to do. All the instructions are in that solicitation document. But if there's any questions at all, that's why I'm here. I can show you the steps that need to all come together. And like I said before, it's not simple, straightforward. It is mind-boggling sometimes, and that's why we are here to help.
yeah, I just can't fit the pieces in my mind. So, like the Canada buys is where you find the opportunities.
Yeah.
PBN for to get paid. I did set up the Ariba SAP last session while we were doing it, so I do have that. And then CPSS is where you respond. Is that what you just said?
Yes, you respond. So the Canada Buys solicitation, you open it from Canada Buys,
Yeah.
and then you search for pro services,
Okay.
method of supply on Canada Buys. That's where you would find the solicitation. Yeah. So once you have that, you download that solicitation with all those pages,
Mm.
and then you respond to that solicitation. in the platform called CPSS. That's where you would click on the button saying submit. That would be in that platform, the CPSS platform, and that's how the government would receive your bid. So SAP Ariba, that is for if you don't have an active SAP Ariba account, then the client can't see your business show up when they're looking for a supplier if you're pre-qualified. The client cannot see you. You must have set up a SAP Ariba account so then it appears on the client's um, system. So if they're looking for somebody, they can see your business come up. So you have to make sure your SAP Ariba has been set up and it's active. And you can even ask the team and say, "Oh, is my account active?" And
There.
it's all good. If not, then you have to fix it, and then they might tell you, where you went wrong. Or you can contact us at PAC, and we can help you with that as well.
So is the SAP
Yeah.
Ariba for somebody finding me then? That's like it's like I'm looking for bids and then SAP Ariba is somebody looking for me. Is that what you said?
Yeah, so when you set up your SAP Ariba account, then the client who's looking to award a contract will look for businesses like yours. And if you have that SAP Ariba account set up, then they can see your business show up. It's like a government list of the suppliers. There's one supplier that had set up an account maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and they've said, "I've got no opportunities. No one's ever reached out to me." And so I decided to, sit down with them and look further. And their SAP Ariba account was missing. There was a part of their SAP Ariba account was one small part was missing. It was like a check mark. And now they've already received 2 opportunities because they've actually completed it correctly. So it's so important to make sure that your SAP Ariba account is registered properly.
Okay,
I don't
Yeah,
want to
but
cut, I
again,
don't want to cut you off.
you can reach
Uh,
out to me. Yeah,
yeah, for sure. I don't want to cut you off, Stephanie, but we've got to kind of wrap up for today. But for sure, you're going to get the information in the follow-up email and you can contact Sarah Ann directly. Okay? All right. Okay, so
yes,
if you want to stop sharing your screen, Sarah Ann, I'll go back to mine and
sure.
yeah, we can finish up for today, which is it's been a lot, which it always is, which is great. We're really always grateful for these opportunities to speak with you directly. Small businesses don't get this opportunity very often, and so thank you so much, Sarah Ann, for everything today, and to the interpreters, thank you so much. Yeah, so I just want to wrap up today by thanking everybody for being here. Tell you a little bit about our upcoming promotions at WeBC, which is generally all found if you go to our um, e-blast newsletter. All these things come once a month and you can see what's what. And for these smart programs, they're incredible, completely free to you to use. You end up with an HR plan for your business, a cash flow for your business, a marketing plan for your business. Like it's quite incredible. Here are some things that are coming up. We're having a little blurb on AI. When customers ask AI, make your business part of the answer. And then a fireside chat on elevating your pitch for, talking about your business in a way that people understand. So, yeah, really good stuff coming up. I want to thank everybody for being here today and draw your attention to the feedback poll. As well, we like to know that these sessions are valuable to you as a business owner. We know your time is money. So if you can fill this out for us, it would be great. And if you have any ideas for a future fireside chat, a webinar, anything like that, we would love to hear about it. It's just gone 11. So, for any of you that have to go, thank you for filling out the poll. Thank you for being here with us today. This is part 3 of a 3-part series, but I'm sure there will be more. This is one of our most popular series at WeBC. So, again, thanks to all of you today. Be sure to sign up for the eBlast newsletter or go to our website to learn more about what we do for women entrepreneurs in BC. And yeah, if you've got to go, thank you everyone for being here today. We'll leave the feedback poll up for another second, but thanks again, Sarah Ann. It was fantastic. Thank you.
No problem at all. No problem at all. Thank you everyone for
Yeah.
joining.
Yeah.
And yeah, reach out anytime. My
For
email
sure.
is listed, and looking forward to hearing from everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Great. You too. All right. Paul will probably